Dan Da Dan, the reason for success. Dan Da Dan is a hit thanks to its visual style, plot, and pacing. The series has captivated audiences and was honored as the best anime series of 2024. Visual style. Dan Da Dan features vibrant animation and a striking color palette. The series uses cinematic techniques to build tension and surprise the audience. Plot. Dan Da Dan is a blend of action, comedy, and supernatural elements. The story follows Momo Ayase and Ken Takakura, Ocaran, two high school students who face strange creatures and paranormal phenomena. Pacing. Dan Da Dan has a fast pace and gets straight to the point, without wasting time on long introductions. The series presents unexpected and fascinating situations, such as Ocaran's possession by the spirit of Turbo Grandma. From the first episode, the protagonists become entangled in their first challenge, which leads to scenes full of action, excitement, and humor. The action takes place in different areas. There's action because there are fights, of course, but there's also action because it's immediately discovered that aliens and ghosts exist. You don't have to wait several episodes for the plot to unravel. Here, the plot is built, developed, and how to solve the problem is presented from the very first episode. In addition, we clearly understand the protagonist, who is the crux of the story and the animation. Nothing works if you take her away, no matter how many characters are added. She is the story, she is the animation, and of course, she is the success. Girls like to see an empowered woman on screen, the only intelligent one, the only strong one, the only one with naturally acquired superpowers, the cunning one, the one who doesn't back down, the one who shouts, the one who hits if necessary, the one who says things openly without censorship, using modern language that any girl would use today, the one who dresses cool, the outfits she chooses are super cute, her makeup is perfectly done, her earrings match and fit perfectly with her look, her haircut is short, as they say, that is, it makes her look modern and not like the standard anime schoolgirl. She swears a lot, she screams, but she also expresses her emotions, although not always clearly, so much so that her friends realized before she did that she was hooked on a guy. And of course, the dancing, even if it's only for 2 or 3 seconds, is a compelling reason to like and make the character and the animation a success. And what do the boys like? Well, they like all of the above, it's that simple. Momo is the perfectly defined Gyru on screen, without exaggeration, and without dissembling, neither more nor less, she is perfect. Character dynamics. The dynamic between Momo and Ocaran is effective, and their relationship becomes the emotional driving force of the series. Anime adaptation. The anime adaptation of Dan Da Dan debuted in October 2024 and has made a significant impact among fans of science fiction and supernatural stories. The second season is scheduled for July 2025. Okay, but what makes Dan Da Dan special? What sets Dan Da Dan apart is its ability to merge ghosts and aliens into a single narrative, something unusual in the shonen genre. While it may not seem to offer anything completely new, this series manages to offer a fresh and dynamic approach that has won over manga fans. Humor and vibrant animation. One of Dan Da Dan's strengths is its visual style. The animation has managed to give the series a vibrant color palette and a dynamism that stands out in every scene. From the opening to the end credits, the animation is not only aesthetically appealing but also enhances the humor and interactions between the characters. Key situations. It's precisely the parallels it draws between the genuinely traumatic horrors and slapstick comedy of puberty that allow the anime to capture that terrifying discomfort of discovering your sexuality and identity for the first time. Being abducted by aliens or possessed by a ghost is paralleled with immature things like having a girl see your private parts, and nothing addresses the weirdness of teenage puberty quite like this. It ticks many boxes for the genre, with incredible action sequences, moments of terror, and over-the-top comedy, but Dan Da Dan truly distinguishes itself as a coming-of-age story. The loss of innocence, a staple of every coming-of-age journey, is quite evident in this case, as it involves the discovery that ghosts and aliens are real. Surprisingly, however, the targets of those beings give it an extra layer of depth, from the aliens in Turbo Granny in the first episode, to the alien who descends on Momo's grandmother's house in the second. There is a constant common target, the young protagonists, Banana, or Doggy. It's unsettling, hilariously childlike in its use of language, and more meaningful than you might think. The fact that the antagonists constantly covet or seek out the protagonist's genitals highlights the ways in which adolescent identity and self-worth are intertwined with puberty and sexuality. It also has the tone of that typical millennial humor that makes silly, immature jokes in the face of extreme existential dread. Combined, it turns an otherwise crude issue into a powerful narrative tool that captures that intangible feeling of being an awkward high school student in the throes of self-discovery and conveys it with maximum entertainment value. Momo and Okuran's Fears. Episode 3 included a chase sequence by Ken Takakura, whom Momo calls Okuran since he shares the same name as her crush, after he realized he couldn't use the bathroom without Momo watching him in order to contain the evil spirit inside him. While it may seem like a simple joke, this was a key moment. Okuran's extreme fear of being seen and humiliated is as palpable as when he faces real enemies, and that fear is emblematic of the young adolescent experience of overcoming taboos and the discomfort of these topics. Beyond this, Okuran's fear of being seen also easily relates to his repeated requests to Momo to remain her friend, and his expressions of fear that she might ultimately reject him. He is shown to shy away from Momo's initial request to see him when she reveals that Turbo Granny did indeed mutilate him, treating the idea of taking his pants off as if it were equally bad anyway. His general discomfort and insecurity translates into an illogical embarrassment around Momo and his general fear of rejection. It again emphasizes the character's slow growth in identity and links it to sexuality and self-acceptance. Momo's struggle to grow into a woman. Momo and Okuran's struggle against Turbo Granny reached its climax in episode 4, and afterward, Momo's grandmother revealed the source of the spirit of the place and Turbo Granny's strength. She informed them both that the spirit of the place was the product of the spirits of dozens of girls who had been taken to the tunnel where Turbo Granny was located, assaulted, and mutilated, turning them into unwitting evil spirits. Turbo Granny was known to appear at such sites of tragedy to comfort the spirits of the victims. This added layer of real threat and dark, heavy thematic appeal is also a very real and important representation of the darker side of puberty and sexuality, especially as a woman, and the realization that you are a target. While the more comedic moments showcase the ways in which shame makes some fears seem irrationally as bad as aliens and ghosts, moments like the end of episode 4 are sobering statements of reality. They put the struggles of adolescence into perspective as a mix of real and irrational fears that must be dissected and embraced as one grows into an adult. Plot flaws. While the use of these kinds of scares is a novel and significant application of shock value in anime, there is also room for improvement. It could be argued that the forced lovemaking scene in episode 1 turned the viewer into an involuntary voyeur, giving them the same view as the alien attackers, of Momo in her underwear, handcuffed to a chair with her legs spread. This wasn't even the only time we would see her in that state. This scene could have easily been constructed differently, focusing on close-ups of her facial expressions and even the handcuffs on her wrists, to show the situation without giving the audience a full frontal view of her. This would have achieved the same effect, without the voyeurism and additional discomfort for the viewer, or, more worryingly, the potential lack thereof. Even the moment where she kicks the alien in the head, as a parallel to the scene where she does this with her ex-boyfriend, was a moment of powerful transformation that could have been kept and only slightly tweaked to achieve the same effect. Furthermore, the story seems to tend toward the hypersexualization of its women in general, as Momo's grandmother is designed as a 20-year-old woman with white hair and a large, constantly exposed breast, among other things. It was a bit of a contrast, especially for a series that prides itself on giving its female protagonist as much screen time as their male counterparts. Not so much in terms of importance, because it's obvious that Momo's presence is more important, given what has already been said, how much depends on each person, but more important in the end. But here I can say that it's not unrealistic, because if there are grandmothers who look like that, they are very beautiful, very young, and very sexy women. I, personally, was very delighted with the grandmother. I absolutely loved her. I, for one, would make her the protagonist, but it wouldn't be a youthful story, huh? But what was mentioned above is a fact that was intentionally put in place to hypersexualize the character, but it backfired because it's very good, it's well presented, and it's also very accurate with today's reality. It's totally believable. Add to this that the ending is a scenario where the protagonist puts herself in danger by going alone to an abandoned spa, in the middle of nature, in a place where she has never been, just to let her friends be free and get to know each other, coming from someone who, of course, thinks he is better than them socially, and that they, despite the fact that one is more extroverted than her and the other much less extroverted than her, need help to make friends. So she goes to a lonely place, where some men appear apparently, and with a super outdated scene of, you know, I can't say because of censorship, but first, again we see a scene that is super strong for an audience that is not adult, and two, you end the season right at this moment. I mean, you commonly end a season where they give you to understand that strong things are coming, or that an extremely dangerous fight is approaching where you possibly won't come out well, or many situations. But never where the virtue of a woman is in danger. I hope you understand what I mean, because as I said, I can't describe it or say it. To finish, I want to express that on one particular point, I like Momo, but she is not entirely my taste for a relationship. To tell the truth, if I had met her and she changed my name, at that moment goodbye, for me it is a lack of respect that I would not tolerate. So guys, if someone changes your name, it is not a good sign, it is up to you to believe it or not. Another reason is that of the Jaehaerys trio. I like her friends more, a lot more. I think Momo would only be my friend because I'd hit on one of her friends. Excuse my frankness, but I also want to clarify that I don't dislike Momo, and it's not that I don't like her. I like her and I like her, but I prefer one of her friends. I think, if not more, or equally intelligent, they're not as fickle, and they're more sensible for their age than Momo. Another reason is that of the Jaehaerys trio. I like her friends the most, a lot more. I think Momo would only be my friend because I'd have sex with one of her friends. Forgive me for being frank, but I also want to clarify that I don't dislike Momo, and it's not that I don't like her. I like her and I like her, but I prefer one of her friends. I think, if not more intelligent, or just as intelligent, they're not as fickle, and they're more sensible for their age than Momo. Well, that's all I can say about the smash hit Dan Da Dan. Bye.